Alright, today we are making a video about something not ordinary. Out of the ordinary. This is not a shoutcast, this is not really an announcement. It's kind of a sad message. Sad video indeed. As I'm sure most of you heard by now, unless you've been on the internet. And you have been on the internet for the past week. Well, 3 days really, 2 days. Basically, the new Command & Conquer Generals 2 has been cancelled. And basically, there's no more Generals 2. It's just being cut.
It's axed.
Yeah, so we kind of want to explain that. We want to sort of explain why. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to read the official post. This is the official post by Victory Games, which it wasn't by Victory Games, it was by EA, despite it saying it was by Victory Games. So let's go...
Victory Games being the developers of the game, kind of the game studio itself, whereas EA being the master
Publisher.
Overlords, publishers.
I think it's very important for people to identify the difference between the developer and the publisher. I mean, that's a lot of things that people don't do. They go, oh, EA sucks. It's like, well, which part of EA sucks? So... I'm derping with the news. I probably opened before. News!
Trying to find it. Okay.
Here we go. Okay.
New future.
Alright, so this is what it says officially. A new future for Command & Conquer. Generals, thank you for your participation over the last few months in the Command & Conquer closed alpha test. It's been much appreciated, and you've been instrumental in helping to find what a new Command & Conquer experience should and shouldn't be. Part of being in a creative team is the understanding that not all of your choices are going to work out. In this case, we shifted the game away from campaign mode and built an economy-based multiplayer experience. Your feedback from the alpha trial is clear. We're not making a game you want to play. That is why, after much difficult deliberation, we have decided to cease production of the game. Blah, 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 blah. They'll do refunds, that's fine. Next paragraph is important. We believe that Command & Conquer is a powerful franchise with huge potential and a great history. We are determined to get the best game made as soon as possible. To that end, we have already begun looking at a number of alternatives to get the game back on track. We look forward to sharing more news about the franchise as it develops. Thank you again for your participation and support. Victory Studios. Now, how does that sound? When you hear that, what do you think of that?
Well, it sounds like they're like, oh, you didn't like our feedback, so we're going to cancel the game. That's kind of
basically
the feeling I'm getting there.
The message that they've got from the official post was, our game sucks. Let's make a new one. We understand you didn't like the game, so let's make a new one. But the thing to keep in mind, it's kind of hard to make a Command & Conquer game when you axe the entire development studio and all the development team. So EA, how are you going to make a new C&C game when you sacked your studio and all of your talented staff who are veterans for years? So, okay, that's the official EA post. Now let's go ahead. Let's read some statements from some of the developers. So from the Victory teams, Victory Games team that lost their jobs. Let's go ahead and read these.
I think we should. Because, I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. I mean, it sounded like, they'll keep Victory Games on, they'll keep making the game, but...
Because when I heard that, it was good news. It was like, oh, well, good, because the current build kind of sucks. It's a bit too StarCrafty. Let's hope they do something a little bit more traditional to Command & Conquer. So let's go into EA Games.
Okay.
So today we've got a one from EA Crush. EA Crush is, I don't know what he does, but he's one of the developers. Yeah. Well, I probably shouldn't actually mention his name. Whoops. But anyway, so this guy they didn't mention, he said in one of the forum posts, on the official forums that you can read yourself if you have access, the entire studio was laid off. We had people still fixing bugs until minutes prior to the meeting that ended the game. The whole team was very passionate and dedicated to making a great title. It's sad to see it go out like this and then close to the end. Now here's another one from another EA dev. You can read that if you want.
Okay. Hi everyone. I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working on this game, and I hope you all have enjoyed the closed alpha. That sounds nice. This isn't official or anything, but you probably saw that our whole team got the axe. I hope you understand that all of us at VG were all dedicated to making a game for you all to play, and that the press release line was total BS.
Bullshit.
It was not any feedback from the alpha that shut the project down, but just petty corporate politics and shenanigans. We're all shocked and confused to find out that our studio is closed and that now we're all out of a job. But I'm very happy to say that happy to see the game is still up and running right now. There's a lot of people who are still having fun with it, so please enjoy the live game until they figure out how to turn the servers off. It might be a while, given that EA, so I really doubt they'll probably forget about it. So
it goes on and on. There's more statements from Tim, from Sire. I mean,
AGM
those
launcher posted one somewhere. So,
those are a bit more polite. They're obviously, because they're kind of respected members of the team. They can't really badmouth EA. So basically, look, EA didn't sack the project because they didn't like the community. The alpha testers didn't like the game. It wasn't because of feedback. It wasn't because of a new future for Command and Conquer. That's the worst part. The title is called A New Future for Command and Conquer. But really, it's just a huge, as the dev said, it's just a huge marketing BS. Basically, what has happened, make no mistake, this is what actually has happened. Basically, what's happened is there's been a bit of a shift around in some of the uppers of EA. So I think, like, maybe the CEO stepped down, some new guy took over. There was a couple of swap ups, and basically the allies of Command and Conquer were kind of lost, as in the EA people that were interested in the potential for Generals 2. So basically, what happened, right, is EA, they weren't happy with how Command and Conquer was going, Generals 2 was going. It had been several years, it had been at least 3, and they had seen no return on the investment. They have invested a lot of money into the game, like a lot of money. And basically, they weren't getting that back, because EA, as we all know, have incredibly short-term goals and a very short-term way of thinking, and that's why they've never sort of like patched and really supported their amazing games. The developers of EA have always been so good. I mean, ever since, like, you know, they bought out Westwood, yeah, sure, but they did a great job. I mean, Generals was amazing, 0 Hour was amazing but broken. C&C 3 had a pretty botched start, but it ended up being amazing once Cancellation came out. Red Alert 3 was amazing. Some people are going to get butthurt, but I mean, in their own way, each C&C game, it's great. In its own sort of way, they're all different, but they're all good. They're all amazing games in their own way, but they all sort of lacked from the lack of support, the lack of, you know, the huge bugs, the terrible balance, and that's really killed the game. And it could have had so much more potential for those games, for the franchise, if EA patched their game more than 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, they're just feeling about milking money from the game and then bringing out a new one as soon as possible. Just buy the new game. The other one's broken as hell, so buy a new one, despite the fact they've got an absolutely ridiculously good game at the time. They're just like, they just want to make money off it, so they're just trying to churn out new games as fast as possible. I think that's one of the issues for the dev team, was that, you know, I think they were, I mean, I can't speak for them, I wasn't on the dev team, but like, I think they would have been put under just ridiculous amounts of pressure to try and get this game out as fast as possible. They're trying to work really, really hard with, what were they using to, like, make the game? They were using Frostbite. I mean, that's like an FPS engine, so
exactly.
It's like, they were trying to, like, make it work, they were trying to fix stuff up, and the EA's just constantly pushing them. I mean, there was a post a while ago that actually ended up getting removed, that they wanted, you know, the closed, like an open beta, like by the time, when was it? It was like
basically they made a post in the alpha forums that said, "Hey guys, what's up? We're going to beta in like 2 weeks." And everyone was like, "What?
What?
We're going to beta in 2 weeks?" No, you're not.
No.
We're going not only going beta in 2 weeks, but we're also releasing the game in like February. And basically, obviously, it was met with like absurd, like a huge, sort of like, what's the word?
Uproar?
Uproar is a good word for it. Where everyone was just like, no. I mean, because think that it came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it was just like, oh, by the way, beta's coming out in 2 weeks. Like, okay, so I made a huge post about that. They didn't have crushing. They had StarCraft 2 style maps. They hadn't fixed those yet. They still had squads, which were terrible. Squads hadn't got the pathing fixed yet. They hadn't got
any balance.
Yeah, it wasn't balanced. There were still only like 10 units per faction. The generals were all broken. Their design was silly. You would have, like, Nuke General literally didn't get a barracks. Or it's like, oh, you want Nuke Tank? That's fine. You just can't have a barracks. And it's like,
okay,
hang on.
But I want infantry.
No, you can't get infantry because you're Nuke General. And it's like,
okay, yeah.
That's fine. I'll just play vanilla China. Or APA, rather.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Alright, oh shit, that's man. There's still some Aegis tanks. Better build some rocket troops. Hang on.
You don't get rocket troops.
Are Red Guard rocket troops?
No.
Are Inferno Squads rocket troops?
No.
Where are rocket troops? Oh, you don't get rocket troops unless you play the Rocket General.
Machine not happy.
So there were some issues,
there were
but
some issues.
they had realized that. They were listening to our feedback, they were appreciating it, they were working on that. And they had a really bad start. I think a little bit off topic here. They got a really bad start. Like when the game first came out, it was a bad StarCraft clone. Like they didn't understand C&C. They didn't appreciate C&C. So they came with StarCraft 2 clone. They're like, hey guys, what's up? StarCraft 2. And it's like, no, we would actually like a C&C game called C&C.
If you could.
Because the worst part is, the kick in the nads, this is like a very long rant here, that's fine. Basically, the worst part is, like, the whole marketing campaign.
What? Oh,
you
God,
know?
yeah.
We're going back to roots.
Yep, going back to the roots of Command & Conquer. We're gonna, like...
We're giving you real C&C, the traditional C&C experience, because we know how much you guys like C&C and how bad C&C 4 was. We're gonna go back to what made C&C great. And we played the alpha, and it's like, okay, why do we have Vespene gas? Why do we have Nidus worms?
Yeah.
Why do we have ramps? And it was like, so that they thought they were making C&C when they were just blatantly ripping off StarCraft.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not C&C at all. Yeah. But, I mean, and basically the reason why they did that is because, as I said, they didn't understand RTS, they didn't understand C&C, and so they looked at StarCraft and went, that is the most successful RTS game. Obviously, it has the best gameplay. Let's make a game similar to that. People will like it. I mean, it's a fair enough assumption, but ultimately, if we wanted StarCraft, we would play StarCraft. If we wanted C&C, we would play C&C.
Yeah. So, pretty long rant so far. Yeah, I have to say our hearts do go out to the dev team. We're sorry to you guys if anyone's watching that you guys lost their jobs. Yeah, we shouldn't be flaming. Definitely not the dev team. We're flaming EA. We're flaming EA. We are definitely very hard. Like the devs did put in a lot of effort, and there was a lot of kind of like talk back. It wasn't like all the posts in the alpha forums were getting ignored or anything like that, and they were going completely wrong direction. It was more EA were kind of, I guess railroading them in a sense, kind of the dev team. They tried very hard, and they've just all been like completely let go. And I think the most dreadful thing about it is, EA still has the title, still has the claim on C&C.
Yeah.
And after 4 flopped, after C&C 4 flopped, and now Generals 2 barely made it out of alpha. How long is it going to be until we get another Command & Conquer game? Because they still own the rights. I think it's going to be a ridiculously long time. We can't buy... It's not like you can buy it out. It's like trying to buy out modern... It's like kind of Call of Duty or like Battlefield or something like that. They're not going to give up the rights.
It's like trying to build nuke MiGs off of a single old Derek. It's just like...
You can't do it.
You can't afford nuke MiGs. You're going to need like at least 2 supplies and maybe a couple of hackers. Like, you need more than old Derek.
Yeah, and that's what completely sucks, because we're trying to cast C&C with a new C&C game, and now EA's completely just done a backflip. And it's just gonna be a ridiculous amount of time until we actually see a C&C game out. Even if it gets past, we could have this all over again. Like, a few years down the future, we could be sitting here telling you, oh, well, by the way, the new C&C game that flopped. So
yeah. So we can't go off topic. We didn't script this or anything. We don't have any plans. We're kind of just like ranting like in circles.
Off the top of our head.
Hopefully you enjoy. But basically, what I was trying to say before was the beta came out of nowhere, and it came out of absolutely nowhere. It was really random, and basically it got met with so much like outroar. And then all of a sudden, it was like a day later, the post was deleted. The post was gone. It was like, what? Because they made the post, all of the gaming news sites caught onto it, like Game Replays, United Forums, like all of these like different like 0 hour C&C communities, like they caught onto it and they reposted it and they said, yeah, this is what happened, and then the links went dead. It's like, what? So, basically what would have happened there is EA said, look, it's been 3 or 4 years, the game hasn't got any money yet, release the game. VG were like, it's not ready. We can't release the game. It's just not ready. EA said, too bad, release the game. VG were like, well, we don't really have a choice. So they were like, yeah, we're going into beta soon. The community was like, that's a fucking terrible idea. And VG were like, it's a terrible idea. And they were like, so EA, we're not releasing our game for a while because it's not ready. And EA were like, oh, that's fine. You're all fired though.
Fired, yeah.
And they're like,
have fun with that.
Yeah, so basically, EA really wanted to get that return on investment because I think the 2 main issues for Generals 2, basically, first up, Frostbite. I think something that we can't appreciate is how much work VG would have put into trying to make Frostbite work. It is an engine designed for FPS, and trying to translate that into an RTS engine, like, it was just so broken. It just wasn't working, and all of, like, the effort they put into. They didn't have jets. They didn't have crushing, and they were going to eventually, but it took them so long. And they spent basically most of their development cycle not making a game. They spent most of their development cycle trying to make this engine work. So that would have taken a huge chunk of the development time. So that would have got delayed the progress. And then they kind of came out of the alpha. Like, alright, alpha's here. Alright, sweet, alpha's here. And then basically, because it was the wrong design decision going for a StarCraft clone, it meant the alpha had to go on for freaking ages because they had to turn StarCraft into Command & Conquer, and they were getting there. But it was taking too long for EA. EA didn't like how long it was taking. And so if they had made a C&C clone, if they cloned Generals, and they released an alpha that goes, okay, we have C&C on Frostbite 2. Here you go, what do you think? We go, oh, cool, get rid of Rockfins, get rid of Battle Buses. You know, basically, and then they probably would have had beta by now. It would have been fine, and that would have been a good sort of time cycle for EA. But because they had to spend so long in alpha, and still did,
and still change everything, and so,
and there was so much that needed to be done. The game was so far away from being good, from being a good C&C game, and they were getting there, but EA just weren't happy with how long it was taking. So EA, the suits of EA, pulled the plug. They said, sorry, it's been taking too long. And they just weren't happy with how long it was taking. I think the other thing as well is they were like monetizing the alpha. Like monetizing alpha is not a good sign. It usually means they're pretty desperate for money. So one sort of conclusion that we might be able to make, we can't definitely say this for sure, but I mean, one thing is EA might have like really tried to push VG into milking these generals, which they were doing. They were milking them so hard, releasing these crappy generals and just making you charge $10 for it. And really trying to make you spend the money on the game in alpha, and then EA can look at that and be like, oh, well, looking at your game, you have I'm just making up numbers, you have 50,000 people in alpha, only 1% of them have spent money. Obviously, the game isn't going to be good for us, because 1% have spent money, the game won't pay off, nope, sorry. And it's like, well, it's an alpha. People aren't going to spend money in an alpha for two reasons. First, because it's an alpha. Secondly, because the game sucked. If they released the game a year later when the game was good, people would have, oh yeah, it's great, spend money on it. Take our money. Yeah. We love C&C, take money. But if EA were judging the success of the game looking at the alpha, like, returns on investment, that's completely unfair.
Yeah, I think the free-to-play kind of killed it as well, monetary-wise. I think for, EA, they definitely didn't think they could make the money back off it, just given that no one was spending money on it. I think that's the main thing.
I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I think it was a great idea. I think it was fantastic that they were going to try a free-to-play thing, and I think it would have worked, assuming they ended up with a good game, and they just pulled the plug too early, because they didn't think they were going to make the money. I mean, you wouldn't get that same kind of, like, pre-sale, that sale rush where you get some money in from kind of releasing the game as well, so it just would have made it a bit more difficult. It's kind of more of a long-term investment. So.
Yeah, and because the other issue then as well is like, because it's free to play, it means that there's a huge sort of stigma. A lot of people like don't like the idea of free to play, but here's like my thoughts, and a lot of us thoughts. And a lot of people were like really freaking butthurt. Like so many people, their butts were hurting so hard when they heard that Generals 2 was going to be like transformed into a free-to-play platform. And I can understand why. There's definitely a lot of arguments as to why free-to-play can be an issue. But I think the benefits of free-to-play outweigh the downsides. Basically, the reason, as we said before, the reasons why the previous C&C games had such little potential was because the lack of balance and like post-release support. So they release a game, everyone buys it, everyone buys the game. Okay, you got the game sucks because it's broken. Oh, we don't care, you already bought the game, why would we care? You've already paid money on the game.
We're not going to make any more money off it.
Why would we fix it? It costs them a lot of money to patch. Patching isn't something they can do for free. So basically, the lack of post-release support, I mean, it's not just 0 Hour, it's every C&C game ever. 0 Hour was broken. I mean, CCG, like, there's the force fire bug. I mean, that can't be intentional. That's a joke. You know what that is?
Yeah, well, you like have to force fire tanks to do, like, more damage out of the bug,
If you don't force fire the ground, you lose. It's like, I mean, sure, it adds micro, but it's a joke. That's such an artificial way of putting micro. It's ridiculous. Some people like it. I can see why. I mean, it adds micro,
fun,
but... So there's that. And then there's, I mean, Tiberium Wars was a flop. That was obviously released.
God awful.
And Kane's Wrath literally got patched twice. And like some of the factions are just unplayable. Like you pick Zocom in 1.2, and you can't build Predator tanks because Predator tanks they give that's 3 times the veterancy they're supposed to. So if you know, it's like when you play against a tank general in Zero, and you kill a vet 2 battle master, you get heaps of vet, but you're supposed to because it's a vet 2, but it's like a vet 0 Predator tank that you get insta vet from. So I want to shout out to Crazy GDI fan, I think he's called, for making the 1.2 plus that fixes those bugs and stuff. So Kane's Wrath was terrible. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Kane's Wrath, the balance was terrible. It was a good game, I loved it. Red Alert 3 got a lot of patches. It was actually quite good. I think it was 10 patches. It was over a year. It was a really short period.
Yeah.
And then still, it was kind of broken by release. I mean, there was so many issues. Issues like Tengu spam, honorable discharge. There's a lot of balance issues, a lot of bugs. That this game's had so much potential because the development teams were just so good. So many good ideas that didn't see the light of day, or didn't really see much exposure because the game was just too broken for people to really get onto, compared to really polished games like StarCraft. So basically, if they applied that free-to-play model to a C&C game, because it means there's no upfront sales, there isn't really anything upfront. The business model relies on a long-term investment. It relies on people constantly playing the game, constantly sticking with the game. So if they release a broken, unbalanced game, people won't play and they won't get any money because they haven't bought the game. It's free to play. So they won't make any money. The only reason they'll make money is if they make a good, balanced, fun game that people are sticking with for a long time. So for an RTS game, I think free-to-play, it could have been a very good move. So I want to kind of address that, I mean, EA, or you heartless souls trying to monetize from free-to-play, well, I don't think that's the issue. I don't think free-to-play had anything to do with it. I think free-to-play was a good move for many reasons. But ultimately, once again, EA having the short-term goals couldn't see that C&C Generals 2 had a lot of potential once it got released. Because I think it's sad to see how much money they invested. They had Command Com. They were paying for people their tickets. They were paying for people to fly across the world to come to their event. They had thrown so much money into the game, and it was so close to release, as in a year out of 4 or 5 years. And they just pulled the plug so soon, and it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, anyway, we're very devastated.
Yeah.
We're not happy, to be honest.
Because one thing I want to address as well, I'm kind of outspeaking here a little bit, but basically...
If you stay with us for the last 22 minutes with
wow,
she's been ranting and I've been listening, so...
Yeah. Basically, this is not a good move for C&C. This is a bad move. A lot of people are very spiteful, where they're like, oh, that's good, Generals 2 sucked. Well, yeah, it did. It was Alpha that had the wrong start. It had a good promise, a good direction. It was going places. But regardless... I think it's incredibly naive. I think it's incredibly ignorant for you to say, I'm flaming you. Yes, I am. It's incredibly ignorant for you to say it's a good thing for Command & Conquer. No, it's not. It's a bad thing. It's a really bad thing. Because as Blake sort of mentioned earlier, C&C4 flopped hard. We all know how hard C&C4 flopped. Generals 2, they probably invested twice as much into Generals 2 as they did to C&C4. They invested a lot of money into Generals 2. It probably had twice of the development time that C&C4 had. I mean, C&C4 was rushed really hard. So much money was invested into C&C in the past 2 times flopped. I mean, EA gonna look at that and just say, why would we make a Command & Conquer game? Command & Conquer sucks. People won't buy Command & Conquer games. Why would we make Command & Conquer when we can keep milking Battlefield, we can keep milking Sims, we can keep milking sports, and we can keep milking Need for Speed. They can keep milking these really reliable, guaranteed, safe franchises. Why would EA invest 20, 30 million bucks into a C&C game? Why would they do that? The last 2 times they tried, it failed. So I think it's going to be a long time before we see a new C&C game. It's going to be a while. And so it's really hurt the reputation, it's really hurt the future of C&C. And not only that, not only the future games, I mean, a lot of people playing C&C games, playing Red Alert 3, C&C 3, I've heard this from people directly that I've talked to, they've said, oh, we were kind of just playing RA3 until Generals 2 came out, and then we're all going to play that. But now that's not coming out, people are going, okay, well, C&C is a dead franchise.
We'll move into other games.
Why would we play C&C? Why would we stick with C&C? It's a dead franchise. Let's move on to League of Legends. Let's move on to Dota 2. Let's move on to these other games. So I think this may be a pretty big blow to activity overall. I mean,
definitely. Yeah, the entire community. I mean, what's left of it? I mean, even with really old games, you still had a community going. I mean, what's there going to be now that the Generals 2's been cancelled, and we probably won't be seeing a new Command and Conquer forever. So,
well,
yeah.
I won't say forever,
yeah,
but for a while.
For a long time. Yeah.
I mean, I think 0 Hour should be fine. I mean, 0 Hour is an old game.
Right, yeah.
I mean, if it was going to die, it would have already died by now. But for Kane's Wrath, well, Tobin was already dead, but Tobin was sucks. Tobin was terrible. But Kane's Wrath and Red Alert 3, they're barely holding on, like barely. I mean, there was recently the Red Alert 3 5-year anniversary tournament, which was freaking awesome. My co-hosted that with Cyber, that was awesome. But I mean, there wasn't a lot of people showing up, and some of them that did were kind of like, well, as I quoted before, I mean, why would we keep playing Red Alert 3 when Generals 2 isn't coming out?
Yeah.
And Total Biscuit actually posted a video apparently, which is great. That's good. We should watch that. Total Biscuit's amazing.
He's pretty cool.
We'll watch that as soon as we finish this. Basically, this isn't good for C&C. I mean, 0 Hour will live on, I'm sure, but it's still such a low community. It might go even lower. I mean, Generals 2, it may have sort of damaged the other communities because obviously people would have left that for Generals 2. But I think saying, you know, good riddance because it sucked is incredibly ignorant because, well, yes, it was an early alpha that had the wrong direction. Given it some time, it would have been a good game. And basically, yeah, C&C, I think, is going to have a pretty sad future, which really saddens me because it's such a... We love C&C. It's amazing. And also, as for us as casters, it's really sort of damaging for us because, again, for us, it was kind of like, oh, we'll cast 0 Hour. We'll get into casting C&C, you know, and then when General 2 comes out, we'll cast that.
A lot.
And because it's a new game, because there's going to be a lot of, like, you know, a lot of people wanting to, like, look into it, long to play it. There's going to be a lot of active communities. You know, it will be good for us. We'll get a lot of views. We'll grow pretty fast. But now that's not coming out. It's kind of damaged our motivation to continue casting C&C. And I'm not saying that we're not going to stop casting. Of course not. We love 0 Hour way too much. But it's kind of less motivating knowing that there isn't really any future. At least I feel there isn't really any future for C&C. At least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing that could happen, the best case scenario would be EA going, last time we tried C&C twice, it flopped hard. C&C's dead. C&C sucks. Let's sell it.
Please.
Let's sell the IP. We'll sell it to someone like Sega. I don't know. They'll sell it to someone for like a huge deal. 20. I don't even know. I'm just guessing numbers. They sell the license. They sell the IP to someone else and go, C&C sucks. Let's get rid of C&C. Let's just focus on milking those Battlefield sports games. Let's give it to someone else. And then someone else comes along and goes, well, we're actually not dickheads. We're actually a good development studio. We're actually a good publisher. Let's make a C&C game. And they do. They make a good C&C game. So I think that's what we would like to happen.
That'd be cool.
But I doubt it'll happen. I don't think EA are going to give away such a strong IP, despite their recent flops. The other potential, I think, is a spiritual successor. And when I say that, I mean like a unofficial sequel in terms of, if you guys know, like Supreme Commander and Planetary Annihilation, how they were the spiritual successors, the spiritual sequels for Total Annihilation. They had some of the same devs, but for the most part, they were different studios, different publishers, but they wanted to live on that same sort of experience. So I think, I mean, it wouldn't be called Command & Conquer for obviously legal reasons, but it would be a very sort of similar sort of game with the same playstyle. So I think those two, they aren't exactly likely, to be honest, but I think those are the only real hope for C&C, at least anytime soon. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure EA will eventually try a new C&C game because it's a strong franchise, but I don't think it'll be for a while. I think it'll be a long time. Yeah. Because they said, oh, we're looking for a new future. We're looking to try alternatives. It's like, well, if you were, you wouldn't have axed your entire development studio and your entire development team. You wouldn't have sacked all of them. You wouldn't have shut down the studio. You wouldn't have given them the same jobs. And keep in mind, a lot of those devs had been there since like the C&C 3 days, since the EA LA days. They've been there for years. They're C&C developer veterans. So it just makes no sense for them to fire the team if they're going to want to make new games. And if they cared about C&C, they wouldn't have axed the game. It was going well. Make no mistake, it wasn't because the game sucked. It wasn't because the game was going downhill. I mean, it was because EA didn't like the return on investment, that they didn't like how long it was taking to get their money back. That's what it comes down to, money. So I think it could have been a very successful game. It could have given EA a lot of money if they had let it, if they didn't give up after 3 years. Because all the other games, every other game ever, every other EA game rather, had like a 3-year development time. It's such a short development time. Everything they do, they milk out so fast. And then, you know, they look at Victory Games and go, okay, well, Battlefield 4 has been in production for, what, 3 years? And we've got this much money back. FIFA 14 was in production for X years, and now we have Y return on investment. What about you, Victory Games? You've been in development for X years, and we have no return on investment. What are you doing wrong? You suck. Go home. You're fired. Nah. So yeah, I think that's the issue there. And so don't blame Victory Games. Blame the developers, EA. The publisher, EA, not the development team. They're different people. Don't get them confused. So yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
That's pretty much everything. I think I just Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to reiterate, we are definitely casting 0 hour. We're not giving that anytime soon. We'll continue to cast 0 hour as long as we have good replays. That is the key word. As long as we have good replays. And that has been an issue before. There has been times when there's just no good replays. And when I say good replays, I mean good replays. I don't mean, oh, look at this 1.4 matchup between Toxin and
a hard army
and USA. And it's just like, I'm sick of this 1.4 crap. I mean, 1.4 can be great. It can be amazing if the players are good players and if they have a fun playstyle. If not just spamming Rockvies and quad RPGs. I mean, the game has to be fun to cast. It's a very different perspective. And there has been times where we've run out of replays. And that's why I've gone, oh shit, there's no more replays. We should probably start 1.6. We should probably throw money at tournaments. Go. Have good replays. Please, have some money.
Please.
Have good replays. So we'll definitely keep casting 0. We love it too much. But in the meantime, I think we'll move on to some other games as well. But we definitely will do both. I mean, it just means that rather than doing 0 hour and Generals 2, we can do 0 hour and League of Legends, which we already have been doing for quite some time. So when I say both, as I said, both, I mean, we probably post 0 hour twice, if not 3 times more what we post League of Legends, despite League of Legends actually being a successful, popular, huge, active community. We love 0 hour a lot.
Yes,
so
we do.
Don't take that the wrong way. I know everyone's going to get butthurt. Everyone's going to be like, what the fuck, you're banning 0 hour? No, we're not. But, so we're quite sad. We're very sad indeed. I think I'll sum it up. It's been going for quite some time. So keep sending us those replays. If you want to see us keep casting, keep making good replays, keep posting good replays, keep running tournaments, keep the game running, and we'll keep our part, our involvement. So I think that'll do it.
I'll probably sign us off, I reckon.
I just want to make sure I haven't forgotten anything, because this is kind of a long rant about our channel.
Make sure you remember everything.
I think so. What were we saying? Yeah.
We covered everything.
So as we said, our hearts go out to the developers. Yeah, I think I'm going to think of a whole bunch of things to finish. Yeah. Alright.
Sad.
Alright, we'll finish this up. Alright.
Yeah, see you later.
Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.